The rain poured down in thick sheets over the narrow streets of downtown Atlanta, turning the pavement into reflective rivers that mirrored the neon signs flickering above. A young black girl, no taller than a street sign, her hair plastered to her scalp, and her clothes soaked through, stood under the flickering street lamp, clutching a small, tattered backpack to her chest. Her eyes scanned the dimly lit street, searching for a familiar face. But the city seemed indifferent, the roar of traffic and the distant wail of sirens drowning out every small hope. She remembered the night a year ago when she had saved a man, a billionaire she had never fully understood, from a life-threatening accident. He had smiled at her then, a rare and human expression in his polished world, and she had felt a fleeting connection. Now she was back on the wet streets, her hands cold and numb, and yet she did not cry. She did not call for help. Instead, she waited, every shiver of rain on her skin sharpening her senses, alert to every shadow, every movement in the distance. Ethan Caldwell, 44, the billionaire who had been saved by this very girl, had been walking late from a high-level meeting at his office tower when he noticed her through the rain-streaked windows of a coffee shop across the street. The sight of her hunched figure, soaked to the bone, tugging desperately at the straps of her backpack, froze him mid-step. His briefcase slipped from his hand, clattering onto the wet sidewalk, but he did not bend down immediately. Instead, he stood, drenched but unmoving, as a memory flooded back, a memory of her courage, the way she had acted without fear or hesitation when it mattered most. A flash of recognition crossed her face as she looked up and their eyes met, wide with surprise and faint relief. She did not smile, for survival had taught her restraint, but in that instant, the world seemed to shrink around them, the rain muffling the city and the distance between two lives that had once intersected under extraordinary circumstances. Ethan moved swiftly, each step splashing puddles around his polished shoes, and reached her side, his voice cutting through the downpour, calm but urgent. "Do you remember me?" The girl nodded slightly, shivering, and pressed her small body closer to her backpack as if it could shield her from the rain or from the enormity of recognition. He crouched down, careful not to startle her, and the memory of last year unfolded silently between them, a bond forged in danger, now tested by circumstance. Her eyes, dark and glistening, told him stories he had no words for, and he realized that she had once again sought to protect someone, to act bravely in a world that had not always rewarded courage. The street around them seemed a blur, the neon lights casting halos on the puddles, and for a moment, all that mattered was the girl, her soaked hair clinging to her face, the worn shoes she could not replace, and the quiet acknowledgement that he could not walk away. He extended his hand, not in command, not in pity, but as an offer, a bridge between two worlds that had met before and were meeting again under the rain, and she hesitated only a moment before letting her small fingers brush against his, sealing the connection silently, and in that instant, he knew that this encounter, like the one before, would change something in both of them forever. The rain continued to fall in relentless sheets, drumming against the pavement and soaking both Ethan Caldwell and the young black girl to the bone, yet neither moved from the small circle of dim light cast by the street lamp. The girl, whose name he now remembered as Anna, hugged her tattered backpack closer, her small frame shivering not only from the cold but from the awareness of being noticed in a world that often looked the other way. Ethan crouched slightly, his polished shoes splashing in the puddles as he tried to bridge the gap between their two worlds without startling her. His voice, steady but laced with concern, cut through the sound of the rain. "Anna, it is really you. You saved me last year. Are you all right?" She nodded silently, not trusting her voice, and the memory of that past incident, the sharp screech of tires, the sudden panic, the rush of adrenaline flashed in his mind. The contrast between the chaotic emergency of that day and the quiet desperation of this one weighed on him heavily. Anna's eyes were wide and cautious, flicking between him and the empty street around them, as if measuring how much trust she could extend. Ethan reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small folded umbrella, opening it slowly so as not to frighten her. "Come under this," he said softly. "You should not be standing in the rain alone." She hesitated, glancing at the wet pavement and the rushing cars beyond the curb, then cautiously stepped forward, letting him shelter her beneath the tiny canopy. The world beyond the street lamp seemed to blur into gray, the neon signs reflecting in the puddles and the distant traffic lights casting muted glows on the wet asphalt, isolating them in their shared space of understanding and concern. Ethan could feel the tension in her small shoulders, the rigid line of her jaw, and the faint tremor in her hands, and he knew that the girl had learned to endure hardship in ways he had never imagined. He crouched to meet her gaze, keeping the umbrella tilted to protect them both, and said, "Tell me what is happening. Anna, why are you out here in this rain?" Her voice, soft but steady, finally broke through. "I do not have anywhere to go tonight. My grandmother is gone, my mother is too sick, and I could not stay inside. I thought maybe someone would see me." Ethan's chest tightened at the words, the weight of her circumstance pressing against his heart. He could see that she had grown even more resilient over the year, and yet the city around them had offered no solace, only indifference. Cars passed with headlights cutting across puddles, drivers unaware of the small figure, and the billionaire crouched beside her. He adjusted the umbrella again and said gently, "You do not have to face this alone anymore. I will help you find shelter tonight." Anna's eyes flicked up, registering the sincerity and authority in his voice, and for the first time, a small, almost imperceptible nod of trust broke through her guarded expression. Ethan lifted the umbrella higher, letting the rain fall along the edges while keeping them dry beneath the center, and motioned toward the curb. "There is a diner just 2 blocks that way. We can go inside, warm up, get something to eat, and then I will make sure you have a safe place for the night." She hesitated, her gaze scanning the darkened street, the puddles, and the empty sidewalks, before stepping carefully into his offered guidance, her shoes making soft splashes with each step. The sound of her wet footsteps alongside his polished shoes created a rhythm that punctuated the silence of the rainy city night. As they walked, Ethan could not help but notice the small details, the way her wet hair clung to her face, the way her fingers flexed around the straps of the backpack, the way her eyes darted to every shadow, as if calculating danger. Each movement was a testament to her vigilance, to a life spent navigating spaces where she was often invisible or disregarded. When they reached the diner, the warm glow spilling into the wet street seemed to embrace them both. Anna paused at the entrance, shivering slightly, but Ethan held the door open for her. "Come in," he said simply. "You are safe here." She stepped inside, the warmth hitting her like a gentle wave, and the smells of coffee and freshly baked bread enveloped her senses. Ethan followed, keeping close, aware that in this moment, their worlds intersected again, not by accident, but by the courage and compassion that had first brought them together. They found a booth by the window, the rain streaking the glass outside, and Ethan watched as Anna cautiously relaxed, placing her soaked backpack on the seat beside her. He ordered hot chocolate and a warm meal for her, insisting she eat first, and she did so, still quiet, still cautious, but allowing herself to be nurtured, even in this small way. The memory of her bravery the previous year lingered in his mind, and now, witnessing her vulnerability and resilience, he felt a renewed sense of responsibility. In the gentle hum of the diner, punctuated by the patter of rain against the windows, a bridge was forming between 2 lives, separated by circumstance, yet joined by the unspoken bond of courage, empathy, and the recognition that no one should face the storm alone. Anna sat quietly in the diner booth, the steam rising from her hot chocolate curling around her face as she wrapped her small hands around the warm mug. Ethan Caldwell watched her, noting the careful way she sipped, the slight tremor in her fingers despite the heat, and the cautious way she glanced around the diner, still alert to the outside world even in this safe space. The rain continued to fall outside, streaking the windows, and the city noises were muffled, creating a bubble around them where only their presence and the quiet hum of the diner existed. Ethan leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table, his polished shoes tapping lightly against the floor beneath him, and asked softly, "Anna, tell me what has been happening since we last saw each other. Where have you been staying?" Anna hesitated, the words catching in her throat, and then slowly she began, her voice small but steady. "I have been moving from place to place. My grandmother passed away last winter, and my mother became very sick. There was no one to take care of me, so I had to find a way to keep going." Ethan felt a pang of guilt and concern, recalling the sense of helplessness he had once felt in a world that seemed too large for one person to change. He reached into his coat pocket and produced a dry towel, placing it carefully across her shoulders. "You have been very brave, Anna," he said, "to face all of that on your own." She looked up at him, her dark eyes wide, reflecting both the fatigue of months spent navigating survival and a flicker of hope sparked by his attention. Ethan continued, "I want to help you tonight, and we will figure out a longer-term plan after that. You do not have to go back into the rain." Anna nodded faintly, the first real sign of trust showing through her reserved demeanor. The waiter approached with a plate of warm scrambled eggs and toast, setting it down in front of her, and Ethan insisted that she eat first, watching her take small, careful bites, her hunger evident in the way she nibbled slowly and methodically. He observed the worn edges of her shoes, the holes in the soles, and the frayed straps of her backpack, realizing the extent to which she had been forced to endure harsh conditions. The juxtaposition of her small, fragile frame and the inner strength she carried struck him profoundly, reminding him once again of the courage that had saved his life the previous year. As Anna ate, she began to relax slightly, the tension in her shoulders easing, though her eyes still darted occasionally to the windows and the street beyond. Ethan took a deep breath and spoke gently. "Anna, I know you have been alone a lot, but tonight you are not alone. I will make sure you are safe and warm, and then we will talk about the steps to make sure you have stability and support." Her lips pressed together as she listened, and a small nod indicated that she understood, though her past experiences had taught her caution. The rain tapped softly against the glass panes, the rhythmic sound creating a sense of calm, and Ethan reflected on how fragile yet resilient this child had become, surviving on her own and showing compassion for others even in her own difficult circumstances. Anna looked up at him then, her gaze steady, and said quietly, "I do not want anyone to feel like they have to face the world alone, even if I am small." Ethan nodded, his throat tightening as he realized the depth of her empathy, the same empathy that had prompted her actions a year ago to save his life. He reached across the table, placing a hand gently on hers, an unspoken assurance that she was not invisible and that her courage and heart mattered. He asked, "Do you remember the night you saved me last year? You acted without hesitation. That same bravery lives in you now, and it is something the world should see." Anna looked down at their hands briefly, and then back at him, a faint smile tugging at the corners of her mouth, the first real sign of connection since they had met on the rainy street. Ethan signaled to the waiter for 2 more plates, explaining softly that they would need to make arrangements for tonight, and the atmosphere in the diner remained quiet and intimate, the rain outside providing a protective curtain, allowing them to speak freely and begin to rebuild a sense of trust and security. He continued to ask gentle questions about her past, her routines, and the places she had stayed, listening carefully to each word, acknowledging her hardships without judgment, and providing reassurance that she did not have to face these challenges alone any longer. Anna's voice grew steadier as she recounted small stories, the way she had helped others on the streets, the little ways she had protected younger children, and the pride she took in doing the right thing even when the world seemed indifferent. Ethan marveled at her strength, the resilience that had enabled her to navigate such difficult circumstances, and he knew that tonight would be the beginning of a new chapter, where her courage and heart would no longer be hidden in the shadows of the city. By the time the rain began to taper off, they had spoken at length, and Ethan made a silent promise to ensure that Anna would have the care, warmth, and safety that she deserved, recognizing that the bond forged through her past bravery and her present vulnerability was a connection that could guide both of them toward healing and understanding in the days to come. After finishing the small meal, Ethan Caldwell stood up, his polished shoes clicking softly against the diner floor, and motioned for Anna to follow him outside. The rain had lessened to a steady drizzle, and the night air was thick with the scent of wet asphalt and faint exhaust from passing cars. Ethan led her to his sleek black SUV parked a few steps away, its glossy exterior reflecting the dim streetlights. Anna hesitated at the curb, her soaked shoes leaving small splashes in the puddles, but Ethan extended his hand gently, offering her reassurance. "Come on, Anna. I will take you somewhere safe now," he said quietly. She glanced at him, then at the empty streets around them, the memory of countless nights alone sharpening her caution, but ultimately she stepped forward, letting him guide her to the vehicle. As they climbed inside, the warmth of the heated leather seats began to seep into her cold, damp clothes, and she shivered, pressing her arms around herself. Ethan adjusted the rearview mirror to ensure he could see her face, and the subtle glow of the dashboard illuminated the tired lines around her eyes, the worn edges of her small backpack, and the careful way she tried not to touch anything unnecessarily. "I am going to take you to a place where you can dry off, rest, and feel safe," Ethan said, his voice calm but resolute, and Anna nodded, allowing herself a brief moment of relief. The city lights blurred past as he drove, reflections of neon signs dancing on the wet streets, turning the familiar streets of downtown Atlanta into a moving canvas of color and motion. As they drove, Anna began to speak quietly about the places she had stayed, the nights she had spent under bridges or in abandoned buildings, and the small ways she had looked after others, even when she herself had so little. Ethan listened intently, nodding occasionally, aware of the depth of responsibility now resting on his shoulders. He understood that this was not just about providing temporary shelter. It was about offering stability, safety, and trust, which she had been deprived of for far too long. When they arrived at a modest, secure guest house he had arranged, the door opened to reveal a small foyer warmed by soft lighting and the faint smell of clean linens. He helped Anna out of the SUV, taking her small, shivering hand in his own, guiding her to a room that had been prepared for her. The room was simple but comfortable, a single bed with warm blankets, a small desk with a lamp, and a chair by the window where she could watch the rain taper off and the city slowly quiet down. Anna set her backpack down carefully, as if it were a precious artifact, and Ethan encouraged her to sit on the bed, insisting that she remove her wet shoes and coat. She did so, revealing socks with tiny holes and a threadbare jacket, and he took a moment to hand her a spare pair of warm socks and a dry sweater. "This will help you feel more comfortable," he said, and Anna accepted them with a quiet gratitude, her eyes flicking up to meet his with a faint, cautious smile. Ethan pulled a chair close to the bed and sat, giving her space while maintaining presence, and spoke softly. "You have shown remarkable courage and kindness, Anna. The way you acted last year to save my life, and the way you continue to navigate the world with bravery, is something rare and precious. Tonight, you do not have to face anything alone." Anna listened, her fingers fiddling with the hem of the sweater, and after a long pause, she whispered, "I do not want anyone else to be hurt. I want to help, even if I am small." Ethan nodded, understanding the weight of her words, the empathy she carried even while navigating her own difficulties. "That is why I want to make sure you have safety and support now. This is just the first step," he said, his voice calm but firm, and he noticed the way a faint hope began to appear in her eyes, a spark that had been buried under months of struggle. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small notebook and a pen, placing them gently on the desk. "You can write down anything you need, your thoughts, your plans, or just how you feel. It is important to remember that your voice matters." Anna touched the notebook with her fingertips, feeling the smooth paper beneath her hands, and a quiet determination settled over her features. The rain outside had slowed to a soft mist, and through the window, the city glimmered with reflections, as if acknowledging the small but profound change that had just begun within this room. Ethan rose and stood by the window, looking out at the quieted streets, and then back at Anna, his eyes conveying assurance, respect, and a promise of protection. He spoke one final time. "Tonight, you rest. Tomorrow, we will talk about the steps to make sure you have a stable and safe place to stay, and how we can support you in ways that matter long-term." Anna nodded, finally allowing herself a deep, cleansing breath, and the tension in her shoulders eased. In that moment, surrounded by warmth, safety, and the unspoken understanding between them, the bridge between their two worlds began to solidify, built on courage, empathy, and the shared recognition that one act of kindness, even from a child, can ripple through lives, changing destinies and opening the possibility of healing and hope for both the giver and the receiver. Ethan Caldwell watched quietly as Anna settled onto the bed in the small, warmly lit guesthouse room, her soaked clothes replaced with the dry sweater and socks he had provided. The soft glow of the lamp illuminated the determined expression on her face, the resilience she carried despite the months spent alone and struggling. Outside, the rain had tapered into a gentle drizzle, the city streets glimmering under the reflection of streetlights and neon signs, casting long streaks across the wet pavement. Ethan moved around the room, picking up a damp towel and carefully wringing it out before handing it to her to further dry her hair, his actions deliberate and careful to avoid startling her. "It is important that you feel comfortable, Anna," he said gently, his voice calm and steady. "Tonight is about warmth and rest. You do not have to endure anything by yourself." She nodded slightly, placing her hands over the towel and letting the warmth from the fabric seep into her fingers. The room smelled faintly of fresh linens and coffee from the diner they had just left, a comforting contrast to the damp, cold streets outside. Ethan then walked to the small desk by the window, where he had placed a notebook and pen, and motioned for Anna to approach. "You can write down anything you wish," he said softly. "Your thoughts, your feelings, or even just your observations of the world. Writing can help you process and remember that your voice matters." Anna picked up the notebook tentatively, running her fingers over the smooth paper, and a faint spark of focus and purpose crossed her features. Ethan watched, feeling a quiet pride at her careful, deliberate actions, understanding that even in this small gesture, she was asserting control over her own story in a world that had often denied her agency. He moved to a chair beside the bed and sat down, keeping his posture relaxed to avoid intimidating her, and began a conversation about the simple things, asking how she had managed her daily routines, what small joys she had found amidst the hardships, and how she had learned to navigate the streets safely. Anna responded cautiously at first, her words measured, but as she continued, she began to recount the small acts of kindness she had performed for others, even while she had so little for herself, describing the way she had shared her meager meals with younger children, and how she had ensured that nobody was left completely alone when she could help. Ethan listened intently, acknowledging her bravery and empathy, remarking gently, "The way you care for others, even when the world has been harsh to you, shows remarkable strength. Anna, you have more courage than most people twice your age." Anna looked up at him, her eyes meeting his, and for the first time allowed herself a small, cautious smile, the beginnings of trust and relief forming. Ethan then stood and moved to adjust the window blinds slightly, letting the soft light of the street lamps filter into the room, casting a warm, protective glow around them. He spoke softly. "Tomorrow, we will begin making a plan to ensure you have stability and safety. Tonight, this is about rest and comfort." Anna set the notebook down beside her on the bed, and Ethan could see that she was beginning to relax, the tension in her shoulders softening, her breathing slowing as she allowed herself to feel safe in his presence. The small room, quiet except for the distant hum of the city and the gentle patter of rain against the windows, became a temporary sanctuary where the cares of the streets, the cold, and the loneliness were suspended. Ethan pulled a chair closer to her bed, maintaining proximity while respecting her space, and continued to speak in a low, reassuring tone, highlighting her accomplishments and courage, the ways she had made a difference in the lives of others, and the importance of self-respect and safety. Anna listened, nodding occasionally, her expression thoughtful, her hands resting lightly on the blanket. Ethan could sense a shift in her demeanor, a subtle easing of the constant vigilance that had been necessary for her survival. He made a mental note to ensure that the following days would provide not only physical safety but emotional support and opportunities for learning and growth. The warmth of the room, the simple acts of care, and the acknowledgement of her bravery began to create a space where Anna could feel both seen and valued. Ethan, standing by the window once again, watched her settle under the blankets, her small frame drawing the warmth around her, and he felt a deep sense of responsibility and hope, recognizing that the evening marked the beginning of a change, where her courage, empathy, and determination would be met with guidance, protection, and opportunities that she had not previously known. Outside, the rain continued its gentle descent, tapping against the glass, while inside, Anna allowed herself a quiet moment of rest, and Ethan silently promised that he would continue to honor the trust she had placed in him, ensuring that she would no longer have to face the world alone, and that her small acts of courage would be supported, nurtured, and valued. Ethan Caldwell sat in the chair by the window, watching the soft rain taper off outside while Anna rested quietly on the bed, her small body finally at ease under the warm blankets. The room smelled faintly of fresh linens and the faint trace of the diner meal lingering on the air, a comforting combination that contrasted sharply with the cold, wet streets she had endured just hours earlier. Ethan's mind wandered briefly to the events of the previous year, remembering how Anna's quick thinking and bravery had saved his life in a sudden accident, her small hands steady, her presence calm, and her courage unwavering. He realized that the same strength had carried her through the past months of uncertainty and solitude, and that despite her young age, she possessed a resilience and empathy that were extraordinary. He spoke softly, as much to himself as to her, recounting the memory out loud. "You remember that night, Anna? You did not hesitate. You acted, and you saved a life." Anna stirred slightly under the blankets, a small movement that indicated recognition, and her dark eyes opened briefly to meet his gaze. Ethan continued, explaining gently, "The courage you showed then is the same courage that brought you through the streets and through the challenges you faced on your own. You have been a guardian for others, even when you had very little yourself." Anna listened quietly, her fingers lightly clutching the edge of the blanket as she absorbed his words. The warmth in the room, the soft lighting, and the absence of threat allowed her to lower her guard just a fraction, enough to feel the reality of being seen and acknowledged. Ethan rose slowly and moved to the small desk, retrieving a framed photograph from his briefcase. He placed it on the desk where the lamplight could illuminate it, showing a moment from the previous year when Anna had been standing beside him, wet and determined, after saving him. "This is you," he said softly, "a reminder of what you are capable of, and the difference one person can make." Anna leaned forward slightly, her eyes studying the photograph, and a quiet pride flickered across her face. "I remember," she whispered, her voice small but steady. Ethan nodded, taking the opportunity to introduce a gentle conversation about her future, asking, "What do you want to do tomorrow, Anna? How would you like to spend your day?" She considered his question, the weight of her circumstances clear in the pause, then replied quietly, "I want to help someone, even a little, because no one should feel alone." Ethan felt a deep sense of admiration for her empathy, understanding that her desire to act with kindness, even in the face of her own challenges, reflected the depth of her character. He smiled gently. "We can find ways to do that safely, together. For now, tonight, it is about you resting, feeling warm, and knowing that someone is here to keep you safe." Anna nodded again, settling back against the pillows, the tension in her body easing as she accepted the comfort offered. Ethan remained seated, observing the way the soft glow of the lamp highlighted the determination in her face, the resilience in her posture, and the quiet intelligence in her eyes. He reflected on the magnitude of responsibility he had taken on, realizing that this was not simply about providing temporary shelter, but about offering guidance, protection, and the opportunity for growth and healing. The gentle hum of the city outside, muffled by the rain, created a peaceful backdrop as he continued, "Tomorrow, we will start making plans to ensure you have a safe place to stay, people who care for you, and opportunities to continue showing the courage and kindness that you already possess." Anna's fingers moved over the blanket, a small gesture that seemed to indicate comprehension and trust, the first real acknowledgement that she could rely on someone in this unfamiliar way. Ethan felt a subtle sense of hope, recognizing that the night marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life, one where her bravery and heart would be met with protection, support, and recognition. As the minutes passed, the quiet rhythm of the room, punctuated only by the soft sound of the rain outside and the gentle ticking of a small clock on the wall, allowed for reflection and calm. Ethan thought about the ways he could help her build a future, the importance of providing stability, and the small but meaningful acts that could reinforce her sense of self-worth and safety. Anna, feeling the warmth, safety, and acknowledgement surrounding her, allowed herself to relax fully for the first time in many nights. Ethan remained present, a steady figure of support, silently vowing that he would continue to honor the trust she had placed in him, ensuring that her resilience and compassion would be met with guidance, protection, and opportunities to grow. The bridge between their lives, formed by her previous heroism and the trust she had extended in this vulnerable moment, strengthened in the quiet room, setting the stage for healing, growth, and the continuation of a bond forged through courage, empathy, and the recognition that one act of bravery can create lasting impact on many lives. Ethan Caldwell remained seated in the quiet guesthouse room, the soft hum of the heater filling the space with a comforting warmth as he watched Anna carefully examine the small items she had unpacked from her tattered backpack. Each piece a worn notebook, a slightly bent pencil, and a tiny, frayed, stuffed animal seemed to carry a story, a history of survival and determination that spoke volumes more than words ever could. He noticed the careful way she arranged them on the small desk by the window, the reflection of the streetlights outside casting soft shadows that danced across the room. The rain had lessened to a fine mist, the city streets glimmering with reflections from the remaining puddles, creating an almost magical atmosphere, contrasting sharply with the cold, hard reality Anna had endured just hours before. Ethan spoke softly, not wanting to startle her. "Anna, I want to understand more about how you have been managing, how you have been finding your way through these past months." Anna looked up, her dark eyes meeting his, and for a moment the fatigue in her face was visible. But beneath it, the same resilience and intelligence that had saved his life a year ago shone clearly. She spoke slowly, deliberately. "I have been moving from place to place. Some nights I stayed under bridges, others in abandoned buildings. I tried to avoid the busy streets where cars and people could hurt me. I learned to observe, to listen, to anticipate, and to take action when it was necessary." Ethan nodded, absorbing every word, realizing that her courage and awareness were not mere survival instincts but the result of careful thought and deliberate decisions. He moved closer, placing a hand gently on the edge of the desk, a subtle gesture of support. "You have been incredibly brave, Anna. What you have endured and how you have acted with such thoughtfulness is extraordinary." She nodded slightly, her fingers brushing the edge of the notebook, as if grounding herself in the physical objects that had accompanied her through difficult nights. Ethan continued, "I remember the night you saved me. You did not hesitate, and that courage, that quick thinking, is part of who you are. Even now, despite all you have faced, you continue to show that same bravery." Anna's gaze softened slightly, and for a brief moment, the tension in her small shoulders eased. The soft lighting of the room illuminated her features, revealing a mixture of wariness and cautious trust that Ethan understood had been earned through necessity and experience. He gestured toward the stuffed animal on the desk. "It is remarkable that you have held on to this, even through everything else. It shows that you keep a part of your childhood, your sense of hope and imagination, alive despite the hardships." Anna picked up the toy gently, pressing it briefly against her chest, and he could see a flicker of comfort in her expression. Ethan rose and walked toward the window, looking out at the city streets, the faint mist giving the urban landscape a quiet serenity. "Anna, I want to ensure that you have stability, safety, and the ability to grow and learn without constantly fearing for your life. Tonight, we begin with rest. Tomorrow we begin planning for a future where you are supported and valued." Anna looked up from her items, her dark eyes meeting his with a mixture of curiosity and hope. "Do you think that is possible?" she asked quietly. Ethan smiled gently. "It is possible because you have already shown the courage, intelligence, and kindness that make you capable of creating a better path for yourself. I will help you make that possible." The gentle sound of the rain against the window, the quiet hum of the heater, and the soft shadows cast by the streetlights created an atmosphere of calm and focus, allowing Anna to absorb his words and consider the possibilities. She picked up the notebook and pen, opening it to a blank page, and Ethan encouraged her. "You can write down anything you feel, anything you want to do, or anything you need to remember. Your voice matters, and this is your space to express it." Anna's small fingers traced the paper carefully, the pencil poised, and a quiet determination began to take root in her expression. Ethan remained nearby, observing the subtle shifts in her demeanor, the way her posture relaxed, the cautious optimism beginning to emerge in her eyes. He reflected on the past year, on the bravery she had shown, and on the responsibility he now carried to support her journey forward. The mist outside and the quiet room created a protective cocoon, a small world where Anna could begin to process her experiences, feel safe, and consider the possibilities for the future. Ethan spoke again softly. "Tonight is about comfort and safety, Anna. Tomorrow, we will discuss the next steps, how to ensure you have support, and how we can help you continue to be the strong, compassionate, and courageous person you already are." Anna nodded, finally allowing herself a full, calming breath, the first true sense of security in many months, and Ethan understood that this night marked the continuation of a bridge between their lives, forged through past heroism and present trust, and that together they could begin to shape a path forward built on safety, care, and the recognition of her extraordinary resilience and heart. Ethan Caldwell stood by the small desk, watching Anna carefully place her belongings back into her worn backpack. her movements deliberate and precise, revealing a mix of caution and pride in managing her own space even in an unfamiliar environment. The gentle glow of the lamp illuminated the modest guest house room, highlighting the softness of the blankets, the smoothness of the notebook pages, and the subtle expressions on Anna's face as she adjusted her items. The faint mist from the streets outside still lingered on the window panes, casting a reflective shimmer across the floor, and the hum of the heater provided a steady, comforting rhythm in the background. Ethan took a slow breath, considering how best to continue offering support while respecting her independence, and then spoke gently. "Anna, I want to take you somewhere that will give you more stability, a place where you can feel safe and begin to focus on what you need and want for yourself." Anna paused, her small fingers lingering on the straps of her backpack, and looked up at him with wide, careful eyes. "Where is that?" she asked softly, her voice measured but tinged with curiosity. Ethan smiled gently. "I have arranged a safe temporary residence, close to resources where you can eat, rest, and begin to build a routine. It is not permanent yet, but it is a start, and from there we can plan the longer-term steps." Anna nodded faintly, the weight of uncertainty balanced by the trust she had begun to place in him. Ethan guided her gently toward the door, keeping a careful pace to match her small steps, and they stepped outside into the soft drizzle, the cool night air contrasting with the warmth of the room they had just left. He opened the car door for her, and she hesitated only a moment before climbing in, her damp hair clinging to her face, her soaked shoes leaving small wet marks on the floor mats. Ethan started the engine, the soft purr of the SUV, filling the quiet night, and began driving toward the temporary residence, the streets glimmering with reflections from the lingering puddles and the distant streetlights casting long, soft beams. Along the way, he engaged her in gentle conversation, asking what small comforts she had been able to find on the streets, how she had managed through the rain, and what she might like to do when she was safe. Anna spoke cautiously at first, her words deliberate, recounting how she had shared her meals with other children, watched over those younger and weaker, and taken small steps to protect others whenever she could. Ethan listened intently, offering affirmations and encouragement, noting how her compassion and intelligence had allowed her to survive while maintaining a sense of empathy for others. When they arrived at the temporary residence, a secure building with clean, modest rooms and a welcoming staff, Ethan guided Anna inside, helping her navigate the steps and showing her to the small room that had been prepared. The room was simple but clean and warm, with a bed covered in fresh blankets, a small desk, and a chair by the window, overlooking the quiet street. He encouraged her to settle in, to place her backpack and belongings where they felt comfortable, and reminded her that this was a safe space where she could rest and feel supported. Anna carefully set her items down, her eyes scanning the room as if ensuring that it was truly safe and welcoming. Ethan then pulled out a small bag with fresh clothes and a towel, setting them on the bed and saying softly, "You can change into these and feel dry and comfortable. Everything here is for you, and you do not need to worry about anything for now." Anna accepted the clothing carefully, removing her wet sweater and socks and putting on the dry garments, the warmth quickly soothing her chilled body. Ethan observed quietly, allowing her to move independently while remaining close enough to provide reassurance if needed. Once she was settled, he suggested they sit together at the small desk, and he placed the notebook and pencil in front of her. "You can use this to write down anything you wish, your thoughts, your ideas, your feelings. This is your space, and your words are important." Anna picked up the pencil tentatively, running her fingers over the smooth wood and the paper, and a subtle sense of calm began to spread across her features. Ethan continued to speak gently, sharing reflections on her bravery, the way she had acted to save him a year ago, and the empathy and courage she displayed even now, navigating difficult circumstances with thoughtfulness and care. Anna listened, occasionally nodding, her gaze shifting between the pencil, the notebook, and Ethan, absorbing the recognition and encouragement he offered. The mist outside began to fade, and the quiet hum of the city became a soft backdrop as Anna began to write small notes and sketches, expressing thoughts she had carried silently for months. Ethan remained seated nearby, observing her quietly, understanding that each word she wrote was a small step toward reclaiming control over her life and acknowledging her own strength and compassion. The warmth of the room, the gentle lighting, and the presence of someone who saw and valued her efforts created a sense of security and possibility, a contrast to the hardships she had endured on the streets. Ethan spoke again softly. "Tonight is about feeling safe, Anna. Tomorrow, we will work together on steps to build a stable and supportive environment where your courage and kindness can continue to grow and be recognized." Anna nodded, finally allowing herself a deep, calming breath, and Ethan felt a quiet reassurance that the night marked the continuation of a new chapter, one in which her bravery, empathy, and determination would be met with care, guidance, and the opportunity to shape a future filled with safety, trust, and hope. Ethan Caldwell carefully watched as Anna arranged her few belongings on the small desk by the window of the temporary residence room, her hands moving with deliberate care as she placed her worn notebook, pencil, and frayed stuffed animal in neat order. The soft glow of the lamp illuminated the room, casting gentle shadows across the bed and walls, and the quiet hum of the heater provided a steady rhythm that contrasted with the relentless rain that had passed hours earlier. Ethan approached slowly, mindful of giving her space while remaining nearby to offer reassurance and guidance. "Anna," he said gently, "I want you to know that this place is yours for as long as you need it. You do not have to face the streets or the rain alone anymore." Anna looked up, her dark eyes meeting his, and she nodded slightly, her expression a mixture of caution and emerging trust. Ethan continued, "We will work together to make sure you have stability, safety, and opportunities to grow and pursue what you care about. This is the first step." She ran her fingers lightly over the notebook, a small gesture that seemed to anchor her in the moment, and replied softly, "I want to help others too, even if I am small. I do not want anyone else to feel alone." Ethan felt a deep admiration for her empathy, recognizing that her desire to care for others, even while facing her own hardships, spoke volumes about her character. He pulled up a chair beside the desk, keeping his posture relaxed and approachable, and asked, "Do you want to tell me more about how you have been helping others?" Anna began to speak quietly, describing the small acts she had performed on the streets, sharing meals with younger children, helping those who were injured or lost, and making sure nobody went hungry when she could assist. Ethan listened attentively, acknowledging each story with soft affirmations. "That is remarkable, Anna. You have shown courage and kindness beyond your years, and even when the world has been harsh, you have chosen to act with care for others." She looked down briefly, then back up, her eyes reflecting a flicker of pride and relief at being recognized for her efforts. Ethan then guided the conversation gently toward practical matters, asking what small comforts had been meaningful to her, how she had managed to stay warm, and what she had wished for during the long nights on the streets. Anna spoke of blankets, hot meals, and quiet places to rest, and Ethan nodded, absorbing the details, understanding how even the simplest comforts had been luxuries for her. He offered suggestions for how she could use the temporary residence to find consistency and routines that would provide her with security and peace of mind. After a pause, Ethan gestured toward the small window overlooking the quiet street. "Outside is calm now, and you can see that even the city has a rhythm. Inside this room, we can create a rhythm too, one where you feel safe and supported." Anna's small fingers traced the edge of the desk as she considered his words, and she seemed to internalize the sense of possibility he offered. Ethan then brought out a few basic supplies he had prepared, a fresh notebook, colored pencils, and some small journals, placing them in front of her. "These are for you to write, draw, or note anything that helps you express yourself. It is important that your voice and your thoughts have space to exist." Anna picked up a colored pencil and began to sketch lightly in the notebook, her eyes focused and determined, and Ethan observed quietly, feeling a subtle sense of satisfaction at her engagement and comfort with the materials. The room remained calm and peaceful, with only the distant hum of the city in the background, providing a safe and protected environment where Anna could explore her feelings and thoughts freely. Ethan spoke again softly, reinforcing the sense of security and trust. "Tonight, you rest, you reflect, and you let yourself feel safe. Tomorrow, we will begin to plan the steps to ensure you have support, stability, and the chance to grow, all while continuing to help others if you wish." Anna nodded, finally allowing herself to take a deep, steadying breath, her posture relaxing as the weight of the past months began to ease slightly. Ethan remained nearby, a steady presence, silently committing to guiding her, protecting her, and supporting her growth. The gentle glow of the lamp, the warmth of the room, and the quiet companionship formed a bridge between their two worlds, one built on courage, empathy, and trust. He knew that this night marked the continuation of a journey, where Anna's resilience and heart would be met with the safety, encouragement, and recognition she deserved, and where her small but significant acts of kindness could continue to ripple through her own life and the lives of others around her. Outside, the quiet street reflected the lingering light of the city, a symbol of possibilities and stability that had begun to enter Anna's world. And inside, she allowed herself to rest, knowing that she was finally seen, valued, and safe under the care and guidance of someone who understood the depth of her courage and compassion. Ethan Caldwell remained seated in the small guesthouse room, the soft hum of the heater blending with the faint sounds of the city streets outside as Anna carefully closed her notebook after sketching quietly for several minutes. The lamp on the desk cast a warm glow across the room, illuminating her focused expression and the slight curve of a thoughtful smile on her face. Ethan observed her silently for a moment, taking in the way she had arranged her backpack, the small stuffed animal sitting neatly beside her, and the worn pencil that had accompanied her through countless days of challenge and resilience. He spoke gently. "Anna, you have carried so much on your own, and yet you have continued to show compassion and thoughtfulness. I want you to know that I see that, and it matters." Anna glanced up, her dark eyes meeting his with a flicker of acknowledgement and trust, and she nodded slightly. "I remember the night I saved you," she said quietly. "I thought I had to act, or something terrible would happen." Ethan nodded, his chest tightening with the memory of that night and the realization that her courage had remained a defining part of who she was. "You did act," he said, his voice calm and steady, "and you saved me because of your bravery and quick thinking. That courage is still inside you, and it is remarkable." The soft light highlighted the delicate lines of her small face, and Ethan noticed the way her fingers lightly brushed against the pencil and the notebook, grounding herself in familiar objects as a source of security and expression. He continued, "Tonight, I want you to understand that your actions, your thoughts, and your care for others have value, and I will make sure you have the support to continue showing that courage in safe and meaningful ways." Anna listened intently, her shoulders relaxing slightly as she absorbed his words. The tension from the past months easing in the presence of consistent, gentle attention. Ethan moved closer to the desk, maintaining a respectful distance, and gestured toward the small window overlooking the quiet street. "Look outside, Anna," he said softly. "The city has a rhythm, and tonight it is calm. Inside this room, we can create our own rhythm, one that is safe, nurturing, and steady. You do not have to face the world alone." Anna followed his gaze to the window, her eyes tracing the reflections of the streetlights and the puddles and the mist lingering above the asphalt. She breathed deeply, feeling a subtle sense of calm as she allowed herself to consider the possibility of stability and protection for the first time in months. Ethan then pulled a small envelope from his coat pocket, placing it carefully on the desk in front of her. Inside this envelope are details about a safe place where you can stay, food you can access, and people who will support you. It is not permanent yet, but it is a start, and we will work together to plan the next steps. Anna's fingers trembled slightly as she reached for the envelope, her eyes scanning the neat handwriting and the organized notes inside. "I do not want to be a burden," she whispered, her voice small but earnest. Ethan shook his head gently. "You are never a burden, Anna. Your bravery, empathy, and intelligence make you invaluable. And it is my responsibility to ensure that you are safe and supported." He watched as she carefully folded the papers back into the envelope and placed it into her backpack, a small but significant gesture of acceptance and trust. The gentle warmth of the room, the soft glow of the lamp, and the quiet presence of someone who truly understood her experiences created a cocoon where she could feel seen and valued. Ethan then guided the conversation toward the practicalities of the coming days, discussing how she could settle into the temporary residence, establish routines, and begin exploring interests or activities that brought her joy and growth. Anna listened thoughtfully, occasionally nodding, and then shared small ideas of what she might like to learn or experience once she had more stability. Ethan responded with encouragement, outlining ways she could safely pursue those goals, emphasizing that her voice, her choices, and her perspective mattered. The atmosphere in the room remained calm and supportive, with the distant hum of the city outside providing a steady backdrop. allowing Anna to internalize the sense of security and care surrounding her. Ethan remained nearby, offering guidance, affirmation, and presence, silently acknowledging that the small steps they were taking together tonight would lay the foundation for trust, growth, and long-term safety. As the evening progressed, Anna's posture relaxed further, her fingers gently resting on the envelope and notebook, a subtle but profound signal that she felt seen, valued, and supported. Ethan, observing these shifts, felt a renewed sense of responsibility and hope, recognizing that the bond forged through her previous heroism and the present care and attention would serve as a bridge to a more stable and empowered future. Outside, the quiet street glimmered faintly under the remaining streetlights, while inside, Anna allowed herself a rare moment of rest, comforted by warmth, understanding, and the promise of continued guidance and protection. Ethan Caldwell remained seated in the guest house room, the soft glow of the lamp casting gentle shadows across the walls as he observed Anna carefully sorting through the notebook and small personal items she had brought with her. The quiet of the room was comforting, the distant hum of the city outside barely audible, providing a peaceful backdrop for reflection and connection. Anna arranged her items deliberately, placing her stuffed animal beside the notebook and laying the pencil neatly on top, as if creating a space that was orderly and safe, a small sanctuary within the modest room. Ethan spoke softly. "Anna, I want you to feel that this space is yours, a place where you can express yourself, think, and plan. Nothing here is wrong or dangerous. Everything is for you." Anna glanced up, her dark eyes meeting his, and gave a small nod, a sign that she understood and accepted his words. Ethan continued, "You have already shown so much courage and empathy. You have helped others even when you had very little, and that is a remarkable strength. Tonight, we are focusing on you and the ways you can feel safe, comfortable, and respected." The gentle light highlighted the lines of thought on her small face, the concentration as she considered his words and the objects in front of her, and the faint curiosity that seemed to flicker despite the months of hardship she had endured. Ethan leaned slightly forward, keeping his tone calm and supportive. "I know you want to help others, and that is wonderful. But before you can do that effectively, you must have your own stability and care. That is what we are building here, step by step." Anna picked up her pencil and lightly traced the edge of her notebook, thinking over his words. "I understand," she whispered, her voice quiet but firm. "I want to be ready to help without being afraid or alone." Ethan nodded, acknowledging her insight and maturity. "Exactly. And this is the first step toward that readiness, providing you with a safe place, warmth, nourishment, and guidance, so you can continue being the brave and compassionate person you already are." The rain outside had finally ceased, leaving the streets glistening with the reflections of streetlights and buildings, casting a calm, reflective light through the window that seemed to mirror the moment of quiet growth and understanding inside the room. Ethan reached for a small envelope he had prepared earlier, setting it gently on the desk near Anna. "This contains information about the support you will have, resources for food and shelter, and steps we will take together to make sure you have security and stability. It is not permanent yet, but it is a start, and we will continue to build from here." Anna opened the envelope carefully, her fingers trembling slightly with a mix of anticipation and cautious hope, and she examined the contents, notes about meals, contacts for support, and small lists of activities to help her begin developing a routine. She looked up at Ethan, her eyes reflecting both trust and curiosity, and asked softly, "Will this really help me stay safe and feel cared for?" Ethan smiled gently. "Yes, Anna, it is the beginning of a plan to ensure that you are safe, nourished, and supported. Each step we take together will strengthen your safety and your confidence." He then suggested that they use the small desk to write down her thoughts, feelings, and any ideas she had about how she wanted to live safely and positively. Anna took the pencil, her fingers brushing over the paper with careful precision, and began writing small notes and sketches, a quiet act of control and self-expression that allowed her to reclaim a sense of agency she had often been denied. Ethan watched, noticing the subtle changes in her posture, the way her shoulders relaxed, and the calm focus that settled over her as she engaged with the notebook. He spoke softly, reinforcing her confidence and empathy. "Writing down your thoughts and plans can help you see clearly the steps you need to take, and it reminds you that your voice matters. You have already made a difference in my life, and in the lives of others. Now we focus on you and your journey." Anna nodded, occasionally glancing up to confirm his presence and reassurance, and the quiet interaction strengthened the connection between them, a bond built on trust, respect, and the recognition of her courage and compassion. The gentle hum of the city and the warm light in the room provided a sanctuary for reflection and planning, allowing Anna to begin visualizing a future where she could act with confidence and care, supported by someone who truly understood her strength and needs. Ethan remained seated nearby, offering guidance, encouragement, and quiet support, understanding that each small step taken tonight would contribute to a larger framework of safety, stability, and emotional growth. Anna, feeling the calm, warmth, and recognition of her bravery, allowed herself a deep, steadying breath, and in that quiet moment, both realized that this night marked a continuation of her journey toward security, empowerment, and the ability to express her courage and kindness without fear or hesitation. The room, bathed in soft light, became a place of connection and reflection, bridging the past acts of heroism with the present opportunity for stability and hope, and laying the foundation for the next steps in a life guided by safety, empathy, and mutual respect. Ethan Caldwell stood by the window, gazing out at the quiet city streets, the faint glow of streetlights reflecting off the damp asphalt as a soft mist lingered in the air, creating a serene atmosphere after the relentless rain earlier in the evening. Anna sat on the edge of the bed, her legs swinging slightly, her small hands clasping the notebook and pencil she had been using to sketch and write down her thoughts. Ethan turned toward her, his expression calm and reassuring. "Anna, tonight has been about safety and warmth, and I want you to know that you have done remarkably well in making yourself comfortable and expressing your thoughts." Anna looked up at him, a small, tentative smile forming as she absorbed his words, the tension that had accompanied her since arriving on the streets earlier now easing in the warmth and security of the room. Ethan continued, "The strength, courage, and kindness you have shown, not only in the past when you saved my life but also now, in navigating these streets and looking after others, is extraordinary. You have a rare ability to act with care even when the circumstances are difficult." He moved to the small desk beside her, placing a fresh sheet of paper and colored pencils in front of her. "You can use these to continue writing, drawing, or noting anything that comes to mind. Expressing yourself is important, and these pages are yours to capture your ideas and reflections." Anna picked up the pencil, her fingers brushing over the smooth wood, and began to draw lightly, tracing the outline of shapes and small symbols that represented the streets she had navigated, the people she had helped, and the moments of courage she had experienced. Ethan observed quietly, appreciating the way she combined both memory and imagination in her work, creating a visual representation of resilience and hope. "You know, Anna," he said softly, "even the smallest actions of kindness can have a lasting impact. The way you cared for others despite having so little yourself is a testament to your character." Anna paused in her drawing and looked up at him, her eyes reflecting thoughtfulness. "I try because I do not want anyone else to feel alone like I have." Ethan nodded, a gentle smile forming. "That is a wonderful quality, and it shows the depth of your empathy and courage. We will make sure you have the support to continue acting with kindness and safety." He then guided the conversation to practical matters for the coming days, discussing the routines they would establish in the temporary residence, the meals she would have access to, and the resources available to ensure her comfort and security. Anna listened carefully, occasionally asking questions about how things would work, how she could engage safely with others, and what steps she could take to feel more confident in her new environment. Ethan responded with detailed explanations, ensuring that she understood each aspect and felt empowered by the information. The room remained calm and warm, the lamplight casting soft shadows that danced gently across the walls, and the quiet backdrop of the city created a safe cocoon for reflection and planning. Ethan emphasized the importance of maintaining a balance between rest, expression, and gradually increasing independence. "Anna, each step we take together will help you build confidence and security. You have already shown how capable you are, and now we will ensure that you can continue growing in a safe and supported way." Anna nodded, her small hands moving over the notebook as she considered his words, internalizing the sense of protection and guidance offered to her. The quiet and focused atmosphere allowed for a subtle but significant shift in her demeanor. Her posture relaxing, her attention steady, and a quiet determination appearing in her eyes. Ethan watched with careful attention, recognizing that this moment represented more than just a single night of safety. It was the beginning of a structured and supportive environment where Anna's resilience, compassion, and intelligence could be nurtured and reinforced. He spoke again softly. Tonight is about security and reflection. Tomorrow, we will begin putting plans in place to ensure you have a stable and supportive environment. Your bravery, empathy, and insights are valuable, and I want you to know that they will be recognized and supported. Anna looked up at him, her gaze steady, a small smile indicating her understanding and acceptance of the care and guidance he was offering. The room remained peaceful, the soft light, the warm blankets, and the quiet city creating an environment that allowed for reflection, comfort, and the establishment of trust. Ethan remained a gentle presence nearby, silently vowing to continue supporting her, guiding her through the steps toward stability, and ensuring that her remarkable qualities were met with safety, encouragement, and opportunities to grow. The quiet room, illuminated by the lamp and the faint light from the window reflecting the misty street, became a sanctuary where Anna could process her experiences, envision her next steps, and begin to internalize the security and support that had been offered, setting the stage for growth, healing, and continued courage in the days to come. Ethan Caldwell remained seated in the warmly lit guesthouse room, observing Anna as she carefully arranged the items she had unpacked, her small fingers brushing over the notebook, pencil, and stuffed animal with deliberate care. The soft glow of the lamp highlighted her focused expression, and the gentle hum of the heater added a sense of calm and stability that contrasted sharply with the chaotic and rainy streets she had endured earlier. Ethan spoke quietly, his tone calm and reassuring. Anna, you have already shown such strength and courage. Even in the face of so many challenges, you have continued to care for others and to act with thoughtfulness and bravery. Anna looked up at him, her dark eyes reflecting a mixture of curiosity and cautious trust, and she nodded slightly. I try to do what is right, she said softly, even when it is hard, and even when I do not have much. Ethan smiled gently. That is a rare quality, Anna. The way you have continued to show empathy and courage, despite everything you have faced, is extraordinary. It is the same bravery that saved my life a year ago, and it is still inside you. Anna shifted slightly on the edge of the bed, her gaze drifting to the window, where the faint light of the street lamps reflected off the glistening wet streets, creating a calm, almost magical atmosphere outside. Ethan leaned slightly forward, keeping his voice soft and encouraging. Tonight is about you feeling safe, warm, and supported. You have already done so much for others, and now it is time to focus on yourself, your safety, and your growth. He gestured toward the small desk, where a fresh sheet of paper and colored pencils lay waiting. You can continue to write, draw, or plan here. This is your space to express yourself, to organize your thoughts, and to start seeing the possibilities for the days ahead. Anna picked up a colored pencil and began sketching lightly in the notebook, outlining the streets, the bridges, and the places she had navigated, the drawings reflecting both her memories and the hope she held for a safer future. Ethan observed quietly, appreciating the way her creativity and focus allowed her to process her experiences and envision a sense of control over her environment. It is remarkable, Anna, he said softly, how you have managed to maintain your courage, compassion, and sense of responsibility, even while facing so many difficulties. You have been a guardian for others while also taking care of yourself in the ways you could, and that is something truly special. Anna listened intently, her fingers tracing the pencil over the page as she considered his words, and a faint smile tugged at the corners of her mouth, the beginnings of trust and comfort appearing. Ethan continued, the next step is to build on this foundation of safety and support. We will work together to establish routines, provide nourishment, and ensure that you have people who care for you and resources to help you continue acting with bravery and kindness. Anna nodded, looking thoughtful as she processed the conversation, and then spoke quietly. I want to be ready to help others without being afraid, and to make choices that are safe and smart. Ethan smiled warmly. Exactly. That is why we are taking these steps together. You do not have to face anything alone anymore, and your bravery and empathy will be supported in ways that allow you to grow and thrive. The room was filled with a sense of calm and quiet determination, the soft lamplight, the warmth from the heater, and the absence of outside danger providing a safe cocoon where Anna could focus on her thoughts, plans, and self-expression. Ethan remained seated nearby, observing the subtle changes in her posture and expression, noticing how the tension in her small shoulders had eased and how a faint sense of hope and confidence was emerging in her eyes. "You see, Anna," he continued gently, "your actions, your thoughts, and your care for others are powerful. You have already made a difference in my life, and now we will work to ensure you can continue to make a difference in safe and meaningful ways." Anna nodded, her fingers resting lightly on the notebook, and Ethan could see the beginnings of trust and a sense of security taking hold. The quiet backdrop of the city, with the mist settling over the glistening streets and the faint hum of distant traffic, provided a protective atmosphere that allowed Anna to internalize the support and guidance offered. Ethan spoke once more. "Tonight is about reflection, safety, and planning. Each small step we take together will help you build confidence, stability, and opportunities to continue acting with courage and compassion. You are not alone, and you are seen, valued, and supported." Anna took a deep, steadying breath, finally allowing herself to feel the warmth, safety, and acknowledgement surrounding her, and Ethan silently vowed to continue offering guidance, protection, and encouragement as she began this new chapter, where her resilience, empathy, and intelligence would be met with care, understanding, and opportunity for growth and healing. In the gentle light of the room, the quiet presence of both, and the calm city outside, a bridge between their worlds strengthened, allowing Anna to envision a future where courage and kindness would be met with stability, recognition, and the support necessary to thrive. Ethan Caldwell leaned back slightly in the chair beside the desk, the soft glow of the lamp illuminating the room and casting gentle reflections across the walls, while Anna sat cross-legged on the bed, her small fingers fidgeting with the pencil as she considered how to explain the experiences she had carried silently for months. Ethan spoke gently, his voice calm and steady. "Anna, if you feel comfortable, I would like to hear more about your past, about your family, and about the people who have mattered to you." Anna hesitated, her gaze drifting toward the window, where the faint streetlights shimmered on the wet pavement below, before she took a deep breath and began quietly. "My grandmother used to take care of me when I was very small. She taught me how to look after myself and others, even when things were hard. She passed away last winter, and after that, I had to find ways to survive on my own." Ethan listened intently, nodding gently, encouraging her to continue. "And your mother, Anna? Can you tell me about her?" Anna's eyes flickered with sadness but also determination. "My mother became very sick. I tried to help her the best I could, but I had to be careful because I did not have anyone to watch over me. I had to make sure we both stayed safe, and sometimes that meant going out into the streets to find food or warmth." Ethan's chest tightened as he absorbed her words, the weight of her responsibility at such a young age striking him deeply. He spoke softly. "You have shown incredible strength and resilience, Anna. The way you have cared for your family and others, even with so little, is remarkable." Anna nodded slightly, her fingers moving over the notebook beside her, tracing lines and sketches that reflected memories of her grandmother's hands, her mother's voice, and the streets she had navigated alone. Ethan continued, "It is clear that you have carried both courage and empathy throughout your life, and those qualities have guided you even in difficult circumstances." He paused for a moment, allowing her to process his words and feel the acknowledgement of her experiences. "I also want to hear about anyone else who has helped you along the way, any small gestures or people who made a difference," he added gently. Anna thought for a moment and said quietly, "There were a few neighbors who gave me small things, food or a blanket, and even strangers who showed kindness when I least expected it. They reminded me that people could care, and that helped me keep going." Ethan smiled softly. Those acts of kindness, no matter how small, can have a big impact. They are reminders that the world is not entirely harsh, and that there are people who will support and guide you. Anna's small shoulders relaxed slightly, and a flicker of hope appeared in her eyes, as if acknowledging the possibility that she could continue to find support and kindness in the world. Ethan then guided the conversation toward connections that might help her now. "Anna, tonight we have created a safe space for you, and tomorrow we will take steps to make sure you have continued support. You will not have to face challenges alone anymore, and there are people who will help you grow and feel secure." Anna nodded, looking thoughtful. I want to be able to help others, but also to feel safe and cared for myself. Ethan nodded with gentle approval. That balance is important, Anna. Caring for others is wonderful, but you also deserve safety, warmth, and guidance. That is what we will provide for you. He gestured to the envelope with the resources and support information he had prepared earlier. These are the steps we are taking. The people and places that will help you build stability. You are not alone, and we will continue to work together to ensure you have security, guidance, and the ability to thrive. Anna picked up the envelope, her small hands holding it carefully as if it were a precious object, and a quiet determination settled over her face. The gentle hum of the city outside, combined with the warm glow of the lamp, created a protective atmosphere where she could process her past, consider her present safety, and begin to envision a future with support and opportunities. Ethan continued, Your past has shaped you, Anna, but it does not define you. Your courage, empathy, and intelligence will guide you, and you now have the tools and support to continue growing and making positive choices. Anna looked up at him, her eyes steady, and said softly, I want to keep being brave and helping others, but also learning to take care of myself. Ethan smiled. That is exactly what we will focus on, and you are already taking the first steps by trusting and sharing with me tonight. The warmth of the room, the quiet connection between them, and the soft reflections from the window and lamp provided a sense of calm, security, and focus. Anna allowed herself to feel a small measure of hope, a rare feeling of being seen, understood, and supported, while Ethan remained nearby, silently pledging to continue guiding, protecting, and encouraging her growth. Together, they began to bridge the gap between her past experiences of struggle and the possibility of a future filled with stability, trust, and the recognition of her courage, compassion, and resilience. Ethan Caldwell stood up from the chair beside the desk, his polished shoes softly clicking against the floor as he moved toward Anna, who sat cross-legged on the bed, her small fingers resting on the notebook she had been using to write and sketch her thoughts. The warm glow from the lamp cast gentle light across the room, highlighting the focused expression on her face and the subtle tension slowly easing from her small shoulders. Outside, the streets glimmered faintly with the remnants of mist from the earlier rain, and the distant hum of the city provided a quiet, steady rhythm that complemented the calm atmosphere inside the guesthouse room. Ethan spoke gently. Anna, I want to take you somewhere safe today, a place where you can begin to feel stability and comfort, and where we can plan the next steps for your days ahead. Anna looked up at him, her dark eyes attentive and thoughtful, and nodded slightly. Where are we going? She asked softly. Ethan smiled reassuringly. A temporary residence that is secure and warm, with people who care about your safety and your well-being. You will have your own space, meals, and the opportunity to rest and regain strength. It is not permanent, but it is the beginning of a safe and structured routine. Anna carefully placed the pencil down beside the notebook, stood up from the bed, and followed Ethan toward the door, taking small, deliberate steps as she adjusted the strap of her backpack. Ethan opened the door and guided her gently toward the waiting black SUV, the soft interior lights illuminating her path. She stepped inside, her damp shoes leaving faint wet marks on the floor mat, and Ethan closed the door behind her, reassuring her, You will be safe now, Anna. I will make sure that everything is arranged for you to have warmth, food, and a comfortable place to rest. As he started the engine, the soft purr of the vehicle filled the quiet space, and they drove through the streets of downtown Atlanta, the buildings reflecting the fading light of early morning as the city began to stir. Ethan spoke softly, engaging Anna in gentle conversation, asking about her preferences for meals, routines, and the small comforts that had mattered to her during her time on the streets. Anna responded cautiously at first, her voice soft but steady, describing blankets, warm drinks, and the feeling of safety that even small gestures could provide. Ethan nodded, listening attentively, acknowledging each detail and reinforcing the importance of her thoughts and experiences. It is remarkable, Anna, he said, how you have managed to navigate so much with such courage and thoughtfulness. You have already shown strength and compassion, and now we will make sure you have the support and security to continue growing and thriving. Anna glanced out the window, watching the city streets reflect the early morning light, and she drew a deep breath, absorbing the sense of calm and protection around her. When they arrived at the temporary residence, Ethan helped her out of the vehicle, guiding her carefully toward the entrance and holding the door open for her. The foyer was warm and inviting, with soft lighting and the faint scent of fresh linens and cleaning supplies, and the staff greeted them kindly, acknowledging Ethan and providing reassurance to Anna. Ethan led her to the small room prepared for her, which included a comfortable bed with clean blankets, a desk with a lamp, a chair by the window, and a small shelf for her personal belongings. "This is your space, Anna," he said gently. "It is yours to make comfortable, to rest in, and to plan for your days ahead." Anna carefully placed her backpack on the floor, took a small moment to scan the room, and then began unpacking a few items, arranging them thoughtfully on the desk and bed, creating a sense of order and ownership over the space. Ethan observed quietly, allowing her to establish familiarity and control over her environment, while maintaining a supportive presence nearby. "You see," he said softly, "this is the first step toward stability and comfort. You will have routines, meals, and support, and you can begin to focus on yourself and your goals." Anna nodded, her small hands brushing over the notebook and pencil, and she spoke quietly, "I want to feel safe and ready to help others without fear." Ethan smiled gently. "Exactly, Anna. And this is how we will start. By ensuring your safety and providing support, you can continue to act with courage and kindness." He then suggested that they sit at the desk together to plan a simple routine, including meals, rest, and small activities that could help her regain confidence and focus. Anna listened attentively, occasionally asking questions, and together they discussed steps for the coming days, how to use the resources available, and how to integrate small moments of joy and creativity into her routine. The warm lighting, quiet atmosphere, and gentle guidance created a space where Anna could begin to feel secure, valued, and empowered. Ethan remained nearby, offering reassurance and presence, observing the subtle shifts in her demeanor, her posture relaxing, her eyes brightening with cautious hope. As the morning progressed, Anna allowed herself a rare sense of calm and possibility, realizing that she was no longer facing the world alone and that she could begin to shape her life with the support, safety, and guidance now available to her. Ethan silently acknowledged the importance of this moment, recognizing that the steps taken today marked the beginning of a path toward stability, growth, and continued courage, and that Anna's empathy, intelligence, and resilience would now be met with the protection and encouragement she deserved. Ethan Caldwell remained in the room, quietly observing Anna as she organized her small space, her fingers gently moving her notebook and pencil, and adjusting the small stuffed animal she had brought with her. The morning sunlight filtered through the window, casting soft patterns across the bed and floor, highlighting the calm yet focused expression on her face. Ethan spoke gently, his voice steady and reassuring. "Anna, as you settle in here, I want you to feel safe and respected. This space is yours, and it is a place where you can rest, think, and plan your days ahead." Anna looked up, her dark eyes meeting his, and she nodded slightly, a faint sense of trust forming as she absorbed his words. "I do not want to make mistakes," she whispered softly. Ethan smiled. "It is natural to feel that way, Anna, but you are allowed to learn, to make choices, and even to make small mistakes. What matters is that you are safe, and that you have the support to grow and learn." Anna picked up her pencil and began to lightly sketch in her notebook, tracing small lines and shapes that reflected her thoughts and the cautious optimism she felt about her current circumstances. Ethan continued, "Your past experiences have given you resilience and courage, and now we will make sure that you can continue to act bravely and kindly, while also having the protection and guidance you deserve." Outside, the city streets glimmered with the reflections of buildings and light, and the quiet hum of traffic created a gentle rhythm that contrasted with the busy, unpredictable nights Anna had endured on the streets. Ethan walked slowly around the room, maintaining a supportive presence without crowding her space, and spoke softly. "Anna, sometimes there will be people who do not understand why you have support, who might question your choices or your presence. It is important to remember that your safety and well-being come first, and that we will handle those situations together." Anna paused in her sketching, looking thoughtfully at him. "I understand," she said quietly, "but I do not want to cause trouble." Ethan shook his head gently. "You are not causing trouble. You are taking care of yourself, and that is your right. anyone who questions that does not understand your courage and your situation. You have shown strength in so many ways already, and I will always ensure that you are protected and supported. Anna's shoulders relaxed slightly, and a subtle sense of confidence began to appear in her expression. Ethan then suggested that they begin discussing routines and small responsibilities she could manage safely, helping her feel more in control of her environment and schedule. We will start with simple steps, he said, like deciding when to eat, when to rest, and what activities you want to engage in each day. You will have choices, and those choices will be guided by safety and comfort. Anna listened carefully, nodding as she considered how she could incorporate these routines into her days. And she began to ask questions about what she could do if she needed help or guidance. Ethan responded with detailed explanations, reinforcing the idea that she was supported, not controlled, and that her voice mattered in every decision affecting her life. The gentle light and warm atmosphere of the room provided a protective space where Anna could internalize these lessons and consider her growing independence. Ethan continued, "You will also have opportunities to help others, Anna, but always in a way that is safe and structured. Your compassion is remarkable, and we will make sure it is expressed responsibly." Anna's eyes brightened slightly, and she began to share ideas about small ways she could assist others while maintaining her own safety, demonstrating both empathy and strategic thinking. Ethan nodded with approval, reinforcing her efforts. "That is exactly the approach we want to encourage. You are capable, intelligent, and kind. And now you have the support to ensure that your actions are effective and safe." He then guided her to consider potential challenges, helping her anticipate situations where she might encounter misunderstanding or resistance from others, and providing strategies for maintaining her safety and confidence. Anna listened intently, occasionally jotting notes and sketches in her notebook, integrating the guidance into her understanding of her environment and choices. The sunlight continued to filter through the window, highlighting the subtle shifts in her posture and expression as she gained a stronger sense of control and empowerment. Ethan observed quietly, understanding that each small conversation, each moment of guidance, was contributing to a foundation of trust, stability, and confidence. By mid-morning, Anna was actively engaged in planning her day, thinking about meals, creative activities, and the small ways she could express her empathy while remaining safe. Ethan felt a deep sense of satisfaction and responsibility, recognizing that these steps, though seemingly small, were pivotal in ensuring that her resilience and courage were met with appropriate guidance, protection, and opportunity. The quiet room, the warmth, and the presence of a supportive figure allowed Anna to process her past, understand her present, and begin to envision a future where she could act with confidence, care, and safety. Ethan remained nearby, a steady, reassuring presence, silently committed to ensuring that Anna's bravery, empathy, and intelligence would be met with the support, structure, and protection necessary to flourish, and that each step taken today would strengthen her independence, stability, and readiness to navigate her world with courage and care. Ethan Caldwell remained seated near the desk, watching Anna as she carefully examined the materials and supplies in the temporary residence room, her small fingers brushing over the notebook, colored pencils, and the stuffed animal she had brought with her, all arranged meticulously on the desk and bed. The morning sunlight filtered gently through the window, casting warm patterns across the floor and walls, highlighting the thoughtful expression on her face and the subtle movements of her small body as she processed the guidance and support she had received. Ethan spoke quietly, his voice calm and steady. "Anna, you have been doing wonderfully in organizing your space and considering the steps for your safety and growth. I want you to know that your thoughts and decisions are important, and that you have the ability to make choices that will protect and guide you." Anna looked up at him, her dark eyes reflecting cautious optimism, and nodded slightly. "I want to make good choices and help others too, without being scared." Ethan smiled gently. "Exactly, Anna. That is why we are planning and thinking through each step together. Your empathy and bravery are remarkable, and now we can ensure that your actions are safe and supported." He gestured toward the notebook, encouraging her to continue sketching and writing her plans and thoughts. "This is your space to reflect, to consider what you want, and to prepare for situations where you might have to make choices. Your voice matters, and these exercises will help you build confidence." Anna picked up the pencil, tracing lines and shapes that represented both her past experiences and her hopes for the future, capturing the streets she had navigated, the people she had helped, and her desire to continue acting with kindness and courage. Ethan observed quietly, noting the subtle changes in her demeanor, the way her shoulders relaxed, the calm focus in her eyes, and the determination beginning to appear as she engaged with the notebook. "Anna," he said gently, "sometimes you will encounter situations where others may not understand your decisions, or where you might feel uncertain. It is important to anticipate these moments, and to have a plan that keeps you safe while allowing you to act with your heart and intelligence." Anna paused, considering his words, and then asked softly, "What if I make the wrong choice?" Ethan shook his head gently. "It is okay to make mistakes, Anna. What matters is that you learn, that you think carefully, and that you have support. You are not alone, and I am here to guide you. Every step you take, even small ones, contributes to your safety and growth." The gentle hum of the city outside, combined with the warmth and light in the room, provided a sense of calm and protection, allowing Anna to absorb the guidance and internalize the lessons about planning, caution, and the balance between courage and safety. Ethan continued, "We can practice scenarios, Anna, so that you feel prepared for unexpected situations. You will know what actions to take, how to stay safe, and how to continue showing kindness without putting yourself at risk." Anna nodded thoughtfully, picking up the notebook again to jot down ideas and potential strategies for handling challenging circumstances, integrating the guidance Ethan provided into her reflections and sketches. Ethan encouraged her to consider not only physical safety but also emotional safety, thinking through ways to communicate effectively, seek help when needed, and recognize trustworthy people in her environment. "Your experiences have already taught you resilience and empathy," he said softly. "And now we are adding tools and strategies so that you can navigate the world with confidence and protection." Anna's small fingers moved carefully over the pencil and paper, creating charts, lists, and drawings that reflected her understanding of safe actions, potential challenges, and the steps she could take to respond thoughtfully. Ethan remained a quiet presence nearby, offering encouragement and reassurance without dominating the space, allowing her to assert control and ownership over her learning and planning process. As the morning progressed, Anna became more confident in considering scenarios, identifying supportive individuals, and imagining ways to act safely while helping others. Ethan observed these shifts, noting the emerging balance between her innate empathy and bravery, and the practical strategies now being integrated into her approach to daily life. The soft light of the room, the warm atmosphere, and the structured guidance provided a safe environment for Anna to consolidate her understanding, build self-assurance, and internalize the lessons on courage, empathy, and careful planning. Ethan spoke gently, "Tonight and tomorrow, we will continue to practice and refine these strategies. Each step you take in thinking through your actions, in considering safety, and in maintaining kindness, strengthens your ability to navigate the world successfully." Anna nodded, her posture reflecting focus and determination, and she took a deep, steadying breath, feeling the supportive presence of Ethan and the safe environment around her. The quiet room, bathed in warm light and calm energy, became a space where she could reflect on past experiences, anticipate future situations, and develop the confidence to act with bravery and compassion, knowing that guidance, support, and protection were always present. Ethan remained nearby, silently committed to ensuring that Anna's courage, intelligence, and empathy would be reinforced with safe strategies, continued mentorship, and opportunities to grow, creating a foundation for confidence, security, and empowered action in the days to come. Ethan Caldwell remained in the warmly lit room, watching Anna as she sat at the small desk by the window, her fingers carefully holding the pencil as she considered the plans she had begun to outline in her notebook. The morning sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting gentle patterns across the bed and floor, highlighting the quiet focus on her face and the deliberate movements of her small hands. Ethan spoke softly, his voice calm and reassuring. "Anna, I want you to feel comfortable expressing yourself here, and to know that everything you do in this space is important and valued. Your thoughts, your ideas, and your plans all matter." Anna glanced up, her dark eyes meeting his with a small flicker of trust, and she nodded quietly. "I want to make good choices and help others safely," she said softly. Ethan smiled gently. Exactly, Anna. That is why we are practicing, planning, and thinking through scenarios. You have already shown courage, empathy, and intelligence, and now we are adding tools to ensure you can act safely and confidently. He gestured to the notebook and colored pencils, encouraging her to continue sketching, writing, and organizing her thoughts. Anna began to draw lines and symbols representing streets, people, and situations she might encounter, integrating strategies for safety and kindness into her visual planning. Ethan observed quietly, noticing how her posture relaxed slightly as she engaged in this activity, the subtle tension easing from her small shoulders as she took control of her environment in a safe and structured way. You have shown remarkable resilience and thoughtfulness, Ethan said softly, and now we are building on that foundation, adding strategies and plans that will allow you to continue acting with courage while staying safe. Anna nodded, occasionally pausing to think carefully before making marks in her notebook, a sign that she was internalizing the guidance and integrating it into her understanding of the world. Ethan continued, sometimes the world will present challenges or people who may not understand your choices. It is important to anticipate these situations, to recognize safe options, and to know when to seek guidance. That is what we are practicing here together. Anna looked up at him thoughtfully, her expression serious. I understand. I want to know what to do so I can help without putting myself in danger. Ethan nodded gently. That is the right approach. Courage and kindness are important, but they must be balanced with awareness and preparation. You are learning how to do that, and each step strengthens your confidence. Outside, the city streets reflected the sunlight on the damp pavement, creating a calm and serene backdrop that contrasted with the unpredictable nights she had endured on the streets. Ethan guided Anna through discussions of routines, helping her consider simple steps for meals, rest, creative activities, and opportunities to interact safely with others. Anna listened intently, her small hands moving over the notebook, jotting down ideas and strategies as they spoke, her focus and thoughtfulness becoming increasingly apparent. Anna, Ethan said softly, you are capable of making wise choices, and you already show great empathy and intelligence. The strategies we are practicing will help you continue to act with confidence and care, while ensuring your safety. Anna's small fingers traced the pencil over the paper, making careful notes and sketches that reflected her growing understanding of safe actions and thoughtful planning. The room remained calm and warm, the lamplight and sunlight blending to create a sense of security and focus, allowing her to internalize the lessons and guidance being offered. Ethan continued, each decision you make, each step you take toward planning and safety, reinforces your ability to navigate the world successfully. You are not alone, Anna, and you are supported in every step of this journey. Anna nodded, her posture reflecting concentration and quiet determination, and she took a deep, steadying breath, feeling the safety and warmth of the room and the supportive presence of Ethan. He observed her carefully, noting the subtle signs of growing confidence, the way she integrated guidance into her sketches and notes, and the emerging balance between empathy, courage, and awareness. Tonight and tomorrow, Ethan said softly, we will continue building routines and strategies that help you feel secure, supported, and capable. Your bravery, intelligence, and compassion will guide you, and now you have tools and guidance to ensure your actions are safe and meaningful. Anna's small eyes brightened slightly, and she nodded again, a sense of calm and readiness beginning to settle over her. The gentle light in the room, the soft sounds of the city outside, and the warm atmosphere provided a space for reflection, planning, and the internalization of safety and confidence. Ethan remained a steady presence nearby, silently committed to supporting her growth, ensuring that each step taken today contributed to her empowerment, stability, and readiness to act with courage, empathy, and thoughtfulness in the world around her. In this quiet, warm, and structured environment, Anna was learning to integrate her past experiences with guidance and strategies for the future, forming a foundation for confidence, safety, and continued acts of kindness and bravery, while Ethan observed and reinforced the progress she was making, recognizing the importance of each moment in shaping her growing resilience and empowerment. Ethan Caldwell remained seated in the warm, softly lit room, observing Anna as she carefully reviewed her notebook, her small fingers tracing the lines and sketches she had created over the past days to map out her thoughts, plans, and strategies for staying safe and acting with kindness. The morning sunlight filtered through the window, casting gentle shadows across the bed and floor, highlighting the focused expression on her face and the subtle movements of her body as she organized her ideas. Ethan spoke gently, his voice calm and steady. "Anna, the work you are doing here is remarkable. You are taking control of your space, your thoughts, and your actions, and that is exactly what you need to feel confident and safe." Anna looked up at him, her dark eyes reflecting a quiet determination and a growing sense of trust, and she nodded. "I want to make sure I do everything right and can help others without getting hurt," she said softly. Ethan smiled. "That is a wise approach. Courage and empathy are important, but planning and preparation are equally vital. You are learning how to combine these qualities, and it is making you even stronger." He gestured toward the notebook and pencil, encouraging her to continue writing and sketching. "Use this time to think through scenarios, plan your routines, and note the steps you can take to remain safe and confident while helping others." Anna began tracing lines and shapes that represented possible challenges and opportunities, integrating strategies for protection, communication, and empathy into her sketches. Ethan observed quietly, noting the subtle signs of growing confidence in her posture, the relaxation of tension in her shoulders, and the emerging focus in her eyes as she engaged with her planning. "Anna," he said softly, "sometimes the world will present unexpected situations or people who may not understand your decisions. It is important to be prepared, to recognize safe options, and to know how to ask for help. That is what we are practicing here." Anna paused, considering his words carefully, and then spoke. "I understand. I want to act bravely, but I want to stay safe too." Ethan nodded. "Exactly. That balance is crucial, and you are learning it well. Your courage, thoughtfulness, and intelligence will guide you, and now you have strategies and support to act safely and confidently." Outside, the city streets reflected the morning light on the wet pavement, creating a calm and serene atmosphere that contrasted with the unpredictable nights Anna had endured on the streets. Ethan guided her through a discussion of daily routines and responsibilities, helping her visualize the steps she could take to feel safe, establish a consistent schedule, and maintain opportunities for rest, nourishment, and creative expression. Anna listened attentively, asking questions about how to manage specific scenarios and how to integrate moments of kindness into her routine while ensuring her safety. Ethan provided thoughtful answers and strategies, reinforcing the importance of preparation, awareness, and confidence in decision-making. The soft lighting, quiet atmosphere, and structured guidance created a safe environment where Anna could internalize these lessons and begin to trust in her ability to navigate the world with safety and empathy. Every choice you make, every step you take in planning and preparation, strengthens your confidence and ability to act with courage and kindness, Ethan said gently. Anna nodded, her small hands moving over the notebook as she considered his words and added notes and sketches, reflecting her growing understanding of safety, responsibility, and compassion. The warmth of the room, combined with the supportive presence of Ethan, allowed her to internalize the guidance, gain confidence, and feel a subtle but profound sense of empowerment. Ethan continued, "Anna, tonight and tomorrow we will continue refining these strategies, building routines, and ensuring that you have the support and tools to navigate your world successfully. Your bravery, empathy, and intelligence are remarkable. And now we are providing a structure to strengthen them." Anna's eyes brightened slightly, and she nodded, a quiet sense of determination settling over her as she considered the possibilities for using her skills and care safely. The peaceful room, with sunlight streaming in and the quiet city outside, became a sanctuary for reflection, planning, and empowerment, where Anna could integrate her past experiences with the guidance and support she was receiving. Ethan remained nearby, a steady and reassuring presence, silently committed to reinforcing her confidence, ensuring her safety, and supporting her growth. Each moment spent planning, discussing strategies, and reflecting on choices strengthened Anna's sense of agency and readiness to act with empathy and courage in a safe and structured manner. In this space, Anna could envision a future where she would continue to help others, make thoughtful decisions, and navigate challenges with the guidance and protection she now trusted, while Ethan observed, encouraging, and fostering the foundation of confidence, resilience, and compassion that would carry her forward. Ethan Caldwell stood quietly by the window, watching Anna as she carefully arranged the last of her belongings on the small desk and bed in the temporary residence room, her fingers gently touching the notebook, pencil, and stuffed animal she had carried with her. The soft glow of the late afternoon sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting a warm, serene light across the room and highlighting the thoughtful, focused expression on her small face. Ethan spoke gently, his voice calm and steady. "Anna, you have come a long way, and the courage, intelligence, and empathy you have shown throughout these days are remarkable. Today marks the continuation of a journey where you are safe, supported, and valued for exactly who you are." Anna looked up at him, her dark eyes reflecting both trust and quiet pride, and she nodded slightly. "I want to keep learning, and I want to help others safely," she said softly, her voice steady. Ethan smiled warmly. "That is the right approach, Anna. Your bravery and compassion have already made a difference in my life and in the lives of others. Now you have the guidance, safety, and support to continue making thoughtful choices while keeping yourself protected." He gestured toward the notebook and pencil, encouraging her to continue reflecting and planning. "Use this space to capture your ideas, dreams, and strategies. Each note, each sketch, and each plan strengthens your understanding and confidence." Anna picked up the pencil and began tracing careful lines and symbols, representing both her past experiences and her hopes for the future. Her drawings included streets, safe spaces, and ways she could act with kindness while maintaining her own safety. Ethan observed quietly, noting the subtle shifts in her posture, the way tension had eased from her shoulders, and the quiet determination that had developed over the course of their time together. "Anna," he said softly, "you have faced so many challenges, and yet have continued to act with thoughtfulness and courage. The skills you are learning now, planning, assessing situations, and thinking ahead, will allow you to continue acting with bravery and kindness without putting yourself in danger." Anna paused for a moment, considering his words, and then spoke. "I feel like I can do it, and I am not afraid to try anymore." Ethan nodded gently, feeling a deep sense of pride and responsibility. "That is exactly what we hope to achieve. You are learning to balance courage with preparation, empathy with safety, and intelligence with action. These are the foundations of continued growth and resilience." He guided the conversation toward envisioning the future, helping Anna to consider how she could use her skills and empathy to make a difference in a safe and structured way. "You can help others, Anna, in ways that are meaningful and responsible. You can choose when, how, and with whom to act, and that control is powerful." Anna's small hands moved confidently over the notebook, sketching ideas for safe ways to assist others, plan routines, and maintain stability in her own life. Ethan observed, offering quiet affirmation. "Every plan you make, every strategy you think through, and every choice you practice strengthens your confidence, your safety, and your ability to act with integrity and courage." Outside, the sunlight reflected softly off the city streets, creating a calm, peaceful backdrop that mirrored the growing sense of security and hope within the room. Ethan continued, "Anna, tonight you will rest knowing that you are protected, valued, and supported. Tomorrow, and every day after, we will continue to build routines, skills, and strategies that allow you to thrive while acting with kindness and courage." Anna looked up at him, her expression calm and confident. "I feel ready, and I know I have help." Ethan nodded. "Exactly. You have help, guidance, and a safe space, and your strength, empathy, and intelligence will guide you forward." The room was quiet and warm, the lamplight and sunlight blending to create a comforting atmosphere where Anna could internalize her progress, reflect on the journey she had taken, and envision the possibilities ahead. Ethan remained nearby, a steady, reassuring presence, silently committed to ensuring that each of Anna's steps forward was met with protection, guidance, and encouragement. He spoke softly once more. "Remember, Anna, your past courage and kindness have shaped you. But now you have the tools, support, and safety to continue making a difference in the world while remaining secure and confident." Anna took a deep, steadying breath, feeling the warmth, safety, and acknowledgement surrounding her, and she allowed herself to imagine a future filled with stability, empowerment, and meaningful action. The quiet room, the soft reflections from the window, and the gentle presence of someone who truly saw her created a space where Anna could fully embrace her resilience, her bravery, and her empathy. Ethan watched her with pride, understanding that this moment marked not just the conclusion of the past struggles, but the beginning of a life where she would continue to act with courage, kindness, and wisdom, supported by guidance, safety, and recognition. In that serene room, Anna felt seen, valued, and empowered, and Ethan silently pledged to continue fostering her growth, ensuring that her extraordinary qualities would be met with the care, opportunity, and encouragement necessary to thrive. With the sunlight slowly fading into the evening, a sense of peace, accomplishment, and hope filled the room, signaling the start of a new chapter in Anna's life, where bravery, empathy, and resilience would guide her forward into a safe, supported, and meaningful future.